we know a lot about the text messages that Hannity and Kilmeade and Ingram and all of them, Don Jr. were sending, and that makes them look really bad. And it should, because they're massive hypocrites and because they have spent the entire time since the 6th downplaying this thing. But I don't want you to forget that a lot of other people have been even more brazen in the about face that they've turned on this. And I would argue these are people that we should, at least in theory, be able to have a little bit higher standards for. Because it can be very easy to forget in December of this year that some of the initial responses to the 6th were like very explicitly condemning Donald Trump individually. And I want to show you some of those. So McConnell said this: former President Trump's actions preceding the riot were a disgraceful dereliction of duty. He did vote to acquit Trump in the little trial they had, though. There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. He forgot about that like a minute after and hasn't really seemed to care ever since. Kevin McCarthy said just 1 week after the attack, Trump bore responsibility for it. 1 week later, he said Trump didn't provoke the riot. The day after the attack, and I had forgotten this, Ted Cruz said that Trump's rhetoric had crossed a line and he called January 6th a terrorist attack. Have you heard Ted Cruz talk in that way since February 13th? I don't think you have. Even Trump was condemning it early on. He posted this on January 13th, 1 week after. He said, I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Unequivocally. And then 10 minutes later, you all are patriots. You're the best sort of people. Unless you're Antifa, maybe you need to be Antifa for me to make a point. But then otherwise, you're patriots and you're the best. So they were all condemning it very clearly. And they sort of waited, they bided their time a bit, and they saw, oh, America, like a significant enough chunk of America will accept explicit political violence. They will accept one party, one politician, one movement trying to end democracy. That is not actually a line that they won't let us cross. Some are a bit peeved about it, they're a bit aggrieved about it, but others are okay with it. So yeah, no, I guess it's cool. It's not a terrorist attack anymore. We have no practical or moral culpability. In fact, it was awesome. So we're gonna double down on that, and indeed they did. So there has been a lot of movement. I just want to make sure that when we're condemning these people in media, which we should, that we don't just focus on them.
So, well, in a way, because they're the drivers of it, right? Well, they're the ones who drive these narratives. They're the reasons why these politicians come out and say these things and get the backup that they need. Because if the media, broad scale, just tells the truth, politicians are left alone being the only ones that are doing the lying. So they do need this coordination from it. And yeah, the media is not the only thing. I'm sure you're not saying that the media doesn't have a part in this. Obviously, half of this whole block has been about that. But just they work in coordination, which again goes to some of these text messages and these interactions that are had. I'm sure it happens on the Democratic side too, that many politicians, top politicians, interact with journalists that lean their direction. But when it comes to something like this, the coordination goes to those links that they know they will continue to be loyal enough to not even expose that. As again, Sean Hannity called himself a journalist. You know the information. You were actually against what was happening, but you gotta shut up and just let it flow because your politician of choice told you to. Where's the journalism there again?
Yeah, not at all.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.